Thanksgiving's coming up. It's coming up fast, and Christmas is not far behind. These holidays are filled with the joy of having family together. But sometimes that can also be the tribulation of having family together. Actually, I like watching old TV shows. One of my favorites is called The Honeymooners, old black and white TV show. And I remember Ralph, he's kind of the star of the show. He's complaining about his mother-in-law coming to visit them for the holidays. She came just coming for the holidays. He said the problem was she came for New Year's and stayed till Christmas. Yeah, y'all expecting any family for the holidays? Anybody? No? Okay. Smart man. Now, we like to pick on mother-in-laws, but, the dynamic can go both ways. A different episode of The Honeymooners, Ralph actually laments over how he and his wife Alice had moved in with her parents just until he got on his feet, just enough to make enough money to get on his feet. He said it was the longest 5 years of his life. So it goes both ways. So if you have any relatives, and most of us do, Thanksgiving and Christmas can come with some relationship challenges. So today we're going to see what wisdom we can learn from the book of Proverbs to help us navigate those family encounters and hopefully build a peace-filled home. Proverbs has some wisdom for us here. And I came really close to titling this sermon, A Proverbs Guide to Surviving Family Gatherings. But while I hope it will accomplish that purpose, I hope we'll learn, what to face going into Thanksgiving. The truth is the information in Proverbs goes beyond just our Thanksgiving table or just our Christmas get-together. It really is for all time, for how we're going to deal with family. So let's begin in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 1. Better a dry crust with peace than a house full of feasting with strife. If you have ever had a family argument erupt at your family holiday dinner, you already know the truth of this verse. All the feasting in the world isn't worth the pain and exasperation of dealing with a family fight in the middle of your meal. If you've experienced it, you know this truth. It would be better to have a humble meal by yourself where you can have peace than to be in one with those with family quarrels. Furthermore, the damage of those family arguments may be hard to repair. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 19 tells us this: an offended brother is harder to reach than a fortified city, and quarrels are like the bars of a fortress. Once you start down the road of fighting with a relative, it's really hard to turn back. It's not easy to make up with them. When a brother gets angry with you or feels you have wronged him, he generally doesn't easily get over it. It seems like the closer we are to a person, the more painful the offense is when we fight with them. Who cares what a stranger thinks? But your family matters. So the harder it is to make up with them after the battle. Sometimes a friend might forgive you more quickly than a relative. So in Proverbs, we are told this process of reconciliation with an offended brother is harder than conquering a fortified city. Well, that's the hardest thing to do in ancient warfare. It's one of the greatest battles you could ever face. The solution is to avoid getting in the fight with them in the first place. Hey, we want a peaceful home. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, said something I thought interesting. He said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Don't take the bait. If you want peace in your home, then don't get into a big knockdown, drag-out fight with your family. Just don't do it. Don't allow others to do it in your home. If the fight breaks out, tell them you aren't taking sides, and if they're going to fight, they need to go somewhere else to do it. That's not wrong. It's your house. We're just not going to be fighting here. We're celebrating Thanksgiving. We're having dinner. If it's your house, it's right for you to say there's no fighting allowed. If you're in their house and a fight breaks out, then peacefully leave. Don't take sides. Don't get into the fight. Just leave, because the feast isn't worth the fight and its following consequences. The faster you bow out of a fight, the less long-term damage it will cause to your family relationships. And the best of all is to avoid the fight altogether. Just don't do it. Now, what I'm suggesting is this. If your family cannot get together without there being a fight, and there are families that are that way, and those fights are hurting your relationships and your family, the best solution may be not to get together at all. Plan ahead. Think ahead. Remember Proverbs 17:1. We just looked at it. Better a dry crust with peace than a house full of feasting with strife. If you know it's going to be a fight, don't go. It's better to avoid the fight than to have the feast. And that might mean not getting together at all with your family if that's what it takes to avoid fights. I know that's not a popular sentiment, but I think it's a biblical concept. You'll be a person of peace, and you're going to do what it takes to make peace. And if that means not being there, then that's what it takes. It could also mean changing the rules of your get-together to make sure the fight is preempted. Okay, sometimes you can change the ground rules to make sure it doesn't happen. For example, if every year you have to fight over whose house the event's going to be at, or what's allowed to be on the menu, and some families do fight over these things, then pick something neutral. You know, I knew of a family that they would have a great difficulty. Every year was a battle. And their family, dinner it had to be in the same place. It had to have the exact same menu, the exact same foods. It always had to be at grandma's house. And, finally grandma sold her house, and that solved the fight. No more problem. So I thought I'd just share with you some of my own personal things that I've learned to avoid many of these conflicts at holiday meals, because I've got relatives just like y'all. So I'll tell you what I've learned. At this point in my life, I have Thanksgiving at my house. Now, that's developed partly because all the older family members are no longer able to host it, but it does eliminate a lot of the trouble. I'm no longer in that position of, if the fight breaks out, can't really leave your own house. Okay, you gotta, do it. So, but you find a lot of the trouble disappears when you're the host. And let me tell you why. See, anyone who wants to come to Thanksgiving at my house is welcome. And anyone who doesn't want to come doesn't have to. I refuse to be offended over who does or does not attend. I refuse to participate in that game. I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to play the list game of who's allowed to come and who's not. My door's open. See, conflicts begin when you're trying to control each other, or other people are trying to control you. By trying to control people's schedules, by trying to control the invitation list, it creates conflict. And it's that desire for control over other people that causes fights a lot of the time. And so I deliberately don't try to control anyone. Come if you want to come. Don't come if you don't want to come. Doesn't matter. Whatever's good for you. If people want to bring something to share, that's fine. But I don't expect it. So if you don't bring anything, that's fine too. Not having any expectations for people for what they might bring eliminates disappointments. I can't be disappointed by what you didn't bring if I didn't expect you to bring anything. I don't negotiate my menu with my guests. Not having a set menu eliminates conflicts. I'll tell people what we're cooking. This is what my wife and I bought at the store. This is what we're going to have on the table. And if you don't like it, you don't have to come. Or if you think there ought to be something else, you're welcome to bring it with you. Go right ahead. I don't tell you can't bring it. The menu's open to donations, but it's not open for discussion. See, I don't worry about what other people eat. I don't pay attention to it. We set the food on the counter. We have a counter full of food, and you can help yourself to whatever you like. Sometimes you'll get someone who insists, maybe you've had this experience, you have to try their food. They brought it, you have to try it. I hate that. I hate that. Or someone who wants to monitor how many calories you're eating. We're going to go through and cut all the food into portions that you're allowed to have. Both are forms of being busybodies. And I refuse to be the Thanksgiving dinner police. I'm not going to do it. And that goes for potluck as well. Okay, it goes for potluck too. I don't worry about people when people come to dinner. Now, maybe you have that relative who's always late. Anybody have that person in your family? Sometimes that's just because they're not good at time and scheduling. But sometimes it's because people want attention. And they will be late on purpose, and they will use that to control the rest of their family. That does happen sometimes. I don't play that game. We set a time when dinner will be ready. When the food's ready, we start eating. I don't wait for anybody. You're not there, we're starting without you. No problem. No conflict. There'll be plenty of food left when you get there. We don't have a shortage of food, so when you get there, help yourself. Grab some food. Doesn't bother me at all. Yeah. But I'm not going to be rude to all my other guests by making them wait because one person's late. Won't do it. I don't play that. Now, following these procedures, I've never yet had an argument over a single one of my Thanksgiving dinners. It's always worked out fine. We're very laid back. Just, come when you want to come. Don't come when you don't want to come. Doesn't matter. We enjoy it if you're there. And if you don't like it, don't come. You don't have to. I don't hold it against you. But those who do come always seem to have a good time that's peaceful, relaxed, and laid back. I mean, it's just, what we do. We eat. Proverbs 26:17 says this, a person who is passing by and meddles in the quarrel that's not his is like one who grabs a dog by the ears. A good rule to avoid fighting at your family celebrations is mind your own business. And that would apply to the concepts I just mentioned to Thanksgiving dinner. See, I don't butt into people's business as to whether they're coming to dinner or not. Maybe they have something else to do. Maybe they're allergic to turkey. I don't know. I don't care. They're welcome if they want to come. They don't have to come if they don't want to come. But I don't butt into their business and demand an excuse. I don't butt into their business of what they eat or what they can't eat or what they like to eat. It's not my concern. It's not my business. I mind my own business, and I'll tell you, it saves me an enormous amount of trouble. In fact, I'll tell you, if you go through life minding your own business, you will eliminate enormous amounts of trouble. A lot of times conflict starts when you're butting into someone else's business, or they're butting into yours. The more you try to impose your will on other people, the more trouble you will have. So if they choose to have ham for turkey, let them have ham. I don't, doesn't matter. Roast beef. Some years we do Mexican. I don't, it doesn't matter. I like tamales. It's good. It works. Now, this would also apply if you're having dinner at someone else's house. It's their house, not yours. So it's not your place to tell them how to do things. If you want to do it your way, do it at your house. Your house, you can do it your way. It's their house, they get to do it their way. If you're a guest at their house, you need to mind your business. You need to be respectful to your host, even if it's your mother-in-law or your daughter-in-law. You need to respect how they decide to do things in their home. If you can't be respectful, don't go. If you can't live with how they do it, don't go. Do your own. Do it your way. It's America. You can have your own feast. Now, this proverb applies to a lot more than getting together with family for a holiday meal. It is always foolish to butt into anybody's business when it's not your business. Listen again to Proverbs 26:17. A person who is passing by and meddles in a quarrel that's not his is like one who grabs a dog by the ears. If you butt into other people's business, you're like a person that grabs a dog by the ears. They're having a fight and you try and join in and give your 2 cents worth. I'm going to tell you, you're going to get bit. If you don't want to get bit, don't grab a dog by the ears. Or in other words, mind your own business. So if you want to have a peace-filled home, you should avoid fights. Avoid getting into people's fights. When you see them coming, learn to mind your own business and go the other way. It'll save you a lot of trouble. And these 2 keys will eliminate most conflicts at family gatherings, at least as far as they involve you. What if, despite your best efforts, even though you were trying your very best, you're minding your own business, you're avoiding fights, you're taking the high road, what if, in spite of your best efforts, someone still picks a fight with you and makes you angry at your holiday feast? Charles Spurgeon said something, and I think it's something we should take to heart for this occasion. He said, do nothing when you are out of temper, and then you will have the less to undo. Do nothing when you are out of temper, and you will have the less to undo. Now, this does go back to the concept, if you don't want to get hit, don't go to the fight. If you don't want to get bit, leave the dog alone. But if you're angry, don't do anything or say anything until after you calm down. Anything you do in anger is going to give you trouble later on. If you don't do anything, you don't say anything, then you won't have damage to undo later from your angry outburst. Take the time to think it through, to calm down, to be thoughtful before you act. Now, another advice I'll give you is this: keep your mouth full of pie and it'll be a lot harder to argue with people. That's my solution right there. I've never yet had an argument with someone while my mouth was full of pie. It just, always, I don't feel like arguing when I'm eating chocolate. I like chocolate pie. And you can have the pumpkin pie. I want chocolate pie. Lemon's pretty good too, but I like, key lime. All right. Now, I hope these concepts will help you and your family to have a more peaceful Thanksgiving and a more peaceful Christmas. However, having a peace-filled home is more than just dealing with the occasional house guest. I find that's where it may seem the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's where things erupt, but really it's not the main show. Proverbs gives us information on how to help build a peace-filled home all year round. And that usually starts with who you choose to marry. Okay, who you choose to marry. If you're single and you're home alone, you probably shouldn't be having too many fights. If you are, that's a different. I know a psychiatrist that can help, but if you're fighting with yourself too much, but if you're married, who you choose to marry really does determine whether you live in peace or whether you live in a war zone. Now, these verses that we're about to look at, I'm going to tell you up front, were written largely from the male point of view, and they are about the importance of a man finding a good wife. So we'll look at them from that perspective. However, I think for a woman to find a good husband is also important. I think it does apply both ways. Just because it's written in the masculine doesn't mean it's only for the masculine. But with that being said, it is true that a wife is key to having a peace-filled home. Okay? Maybe you've heard it put this way: happy wife, happy life. Okay. Here's something we can learn in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 22. A beautiful woman who rejects good sense is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. Proverbs 12:4. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a wife who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. Men have a bad tendency, and guys, here I'm talking to you, but we have a bad tendency to judge women by their initial physical attractiveness. Okay, I'm just talking to guys. We notice a pretty girl. That's a trap. Okay? A good-looking woman that is foolish in her behavior and foolish in her desires will drag you into the pig pen. Okay? It's like a pig with a gold ring in her snout. That's a new fashion these days. A lot of them are trying to wear those gold rings like they were a pig or a bull, or I don't know what we won't go there. So man, hear me clearly, looks fade, but her character is what you really have to live with. Okay? You don't know what she looks like without her makeup till after you get married. I think women wearing makeup while they're dating is false advertisement. That's just, just letting you know. I'm not against makeup. I mean, some ladies really need it. That's okay. We won't go there. But you have to live with her character. That'll be there after her looks have gone, after your looks have gone. You don't want to live with the hog just because she started out pretty. When she acts up and causes trouble, it will eat you away from the inside. It'll ruin your life. Marrying the wrong woman, a woman lacking in godly character, is how you wind up with an unhappy, tumultuous home. But marrying a woman of noble character will be the crown of glory to any man. Behind every man's a good woman. I mean, you've heard that saying, that behind every strong man. Well, that woman can give him something to look forward to when he goes home. How do you find such a wife? Well, they're not so easy to come by. Good wives and good husbands are not easy to come by, but here is what we are told. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Proverbs 19:14. A house and wealth are inherited from fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. If you're single and you want to get married, go to the Lord to provide you the right person. It's a gift from the Lord to have the right person. Finding the right wife is a blessing from God. And I'm sure finding the right husband is also. Go to God and trust Him to bring you the right person at the right time. Now, in the meantime, you become the right person for them to want to marry. Okay, ladies, if you want a good husband, then become a woman of noble character. Men, if you want a good wife, then become the kind of man that a good, godly wife deserves. A man of honor and integrity. These types of people committed in marriage can build a happy, peace-filled home. Well, what if you're already married? What does Proverbs have to say? And I know this is going to be everybody's favorite verses. We'll pick up in Proverbs 19:13. A foolish son is his father's ruin, and a wife's nagging is an endless dripping. Proverbs 21:9. Better to live in the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. Proverbs 21:19. Better to live in the wilderness than with a nagging and hot-tempered wife. Proverbs 25:24. Better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. Proverbs 27, beginning of verse 15. An endless dripping on a rainy day and a nagging wife are alike. The one who controls her controls the wind and grasps oil with his right hand. Now, I find it interesting that we find 5 different verses in Proverbs on the subject of nagging wives. So go figure, the guy with 900 wives thought nagging wives was a major issue in life. Okay. Now, in fairness to Solomon, let me give Solomon a little fairness here. He only had 300 wives. The other 600 were concubines. And I have to admit, I'm at a loss here. I'm at a loss how to understand Solomon, because in my whole life, I've only had one wife, and I've never had a concubine. Okay, my whole life, I've never had that, which I think is the way the church likes it. I mean, the church prefers the pastor, one wife thing. Although I must admit, all the pulpit committees I've met in the past, not one of them ever asked if I had a concubine. I mean, so I'm assuming they were just giving me the benefit of the doubt. But I have to admit a lack of personal experience in this area. And so I'm going to give you my theory. My theory is that a concubine can nag a man just as well as a wife can. And so that might explain Solomon's focus on this subject just a little bit. The moral of that story is if you don't want 900 nagging wives, don't marry 900 women. Okay? Don't do it. However, this is the point where you guys should start taking notes if you want a happy, peace-filled home. Gentlemen, I'm speaking to you especially. Men and women are 2 very different creatures. Okay? Men are fairly simple creatures, but we're less communicative than the female of the species. Women communicate better. Men do have needs, but they rarely seem to admit their felt needs, especially to their wives. So a man doesn't like to admit that he needs something. It's just something that's not manly. Makes us feel vulnerable. And so ladies often are left to just figure out what your husband needs. The truth is that most men have a really short list of what they feel they need in life, especially from their wife. And so you could probably count their list on one hand. And for some guys, that's even with a couple fingers missing. Men are simple creatures. They really aren't that complicated. Women are the opposite. They are much more complex in their feelings. And they often look to their husbands to fulfill those many different needs. And so, ladies, when a guy marries you, he probably has a very short list, a basic list of what he needs from you. But gentlemen, when a woman marries you, she might have a very long and complicated list of what she expects from you. Okay? Men probably have a very simple expectation of what they think marriage is going to be like. Women probably have a lot of dreams and hopes of what they think their marriage is going to be like. That's generally the dynamic. Now, the good news of this is that women are usually much better about expressing their needs than men are. Most women will tell their husband what they feel they need. Okay, that's the opposite of men. Most men don't. Most women will. Most women will tell their husbands. And it is that causing whatever is causing them distress, whatever's making them feel insecure, whatever's making them feel easy in life, they will tell their husband. They often feel that their husband needs to know what they feel and needs to know what they expect him to do about it. Women are expressing their need, but men often see that as nagging. Okay, I'm telling you, what the woman says, what the man hears. Okay, two different things. Solomon says it would be better to live in the desert or on the corner of a roof than to endure the constant, endless torment of a nagging, hot-tempered wife. And I guess with more than 900 wives, he knew what he was talking about. Now, they drove him out of the palace. He's out of here. In fact, one of his wives, he built her own house. What does that tell you? It was the daughter of Pharaoh. He built her own house. Okay. Now, first, let me say a word to you ladies. If you've ever asked your husband to do something and he said he'll do it, there's no real need to nag him about it every 6 months until he gets it done. Okay, just letting you know. And gentlemen, if it seems like your wife just won't stop nagging at you about something, then it's probably because she has a felt need she expects you to fulfill. Chances are that if you fulfill that need, she'll stop nagging you about it. If you want a happy, peace-filled home, then you need to take the steps necessary to make your wife happy, to make her secure, to make her feel loved. You won't have a happy, peace-filled home as long as she is unhappy or feels insecure. Now, a long time ago, when I was still a newlywed, I was visiting an older couple. My wife and I and another young couple, this older married man, he had a fairly eccentric wife that I would have seen as an old nag. And she was after him to do something while we were there. And he got up to go do it. But what I found interesting, in the middle of going to do it, he paused and turned to me and the other young man, and he said, "Never let your wife feel insecure. Never let your wife feel insecure." And at the time, I didn't really understand entirely what he was saying. But really, I think he was expressing some of the most profound wisdom I've ever had a person share with me. If you let your wife feel insecure, you make her feel insecure, you will always have a home that's full of turmoil. And guys, it doesn't matter how logical you think her feelings are or are not, those felt needs unaddressed will make her feel insecure and will cause you trouble. And I was thinking on this, it really comes down to kind of the love and respect concept. But before you married her, you told your wife how much you loved her. I'd go across the widest ocean. I'd climb the highest mountain. I'd slay the biggest dragon. And now she says, "Will you take out the trash?" You're like, "I'm watching the game." Okay. That makes her feel insecure. That makes her feel like, do you really love me? I mean, you used to love me. You said all this stuff. Do you used to love me? And so from her perspective, I think she starts listing things, nagging, to motivate you to prove you still love her. She's feeling insecure. Really doesn't even have to do with what she wants done. It's the feeling, the emotion. Now, from a guy's perspective, let me give you this from a guy's perspective, so maybe ladies will understand. You know, when I was getting married, I would have slain a dragon for my wife, and I still would. A dragon shows up in the front yard, I will go out and kill it. Okay? Most guys would be happy with that prospect. I mean, I want my lucky dice, but but if I'm going to face a dragon. But, hunting, that's fun, right? Target practice. We'll fire up the barbecue, have dragon meat for dinner. A guy would do that. But we separate that concept from taking out the trash, which can be done any old time. To a guy, what's the big deal? I'll do it later. But to the woman, she feels insecure. Not because the trash is sitting there, but because you're not responding to what she needs. So remember this way, happy wife, happy life. Or maybe you heard it this way, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Okay? You want your wife to be happy. You want a happy home. You want a peace-filled home. Make sure your wife feels secure. You'll be the beneficiary. If she feels insecure, you're going to suffer. Well, what might this look like in real life? Because we usually don't have dragons show up or oceans to cross. Well, maybe after Thanksgiving dinner, you want to watch the game and she starts reminding you to get out the Christmas tree. Okay? The way to get peace, record the game and go get the tree. Or if you're really a smart guy, get the tree out before it's ready for her. Got to think ahead. But she needs you to do that so she can have her felt need met, so she can feel secure, so she can have the tangible evidence that you still love her. And if you don't meet that need, you're not going to have any peace through the whole game, depending on her level of character. Okay, now some wives have a much better level of character. They may not nag so much, but it don't mean she's not feeling it. I told the worship team I was going to be preaching on this, and you'll notice they started with, because he lives, I can face tomorrow. That was okay. Men often get interested in ideas. This is something I found about men. They often get interested in ideas of how they're going to run their homes after they're married. They have ideas about their wife being submissive and everything's going to work a certain way. And I find the guys who have these ideas are always single. I've only met one married guy who had these ideas, and he was newlywed, and he was kind of slow. So usually they wise up quicker. When I got married, my wife and I, we got married. We actually had already rented an apartment, but we didn't have anything really moved in much, a couple basics. And so we actually went from the wedding to the apartment and started cleaning. Because we still had cleaning to do. We hadn't even gotten moved in. And so she took the kitchen, and which there was cat fur inside the refrigerator. And it was, she was cleaning in there. And I took the bathroom. And so I was in the bathroom scrubbing the tub, and I'm seeing my brand new ring and putting my hand in and out of this bucket of dirty water, and the thoughts going through my mind. So this is marriage. Yeah, that's it. Get used to it. You're going to be clean. You're going to be doing stuff. It doesn't always go the way you think it will. The more controlling you want to be of your spouse, husband or wife, the more careful you had better be about who you marry. Make sure you marry the right person, because if you marry the wrong person, your desire for control, your plans of this is the way my perfect marriage is going to go, will damage your relationship. So the more you have built up in your mind, the more careful you got to be in who you marry. You need to figure out what you can live with or cannot live with before you get married. Okay? People say, I fell in love. We have to get married. Well, that's nice. We'll see if you're in love in 6 months. When reality sets in, you've got to figure out who can you actually live with, because this is a lifetime commitment. It will save you a lot of trouble if you figure that out before you get married. So I always do premarital counseling, and actually I learned from the pastor who did my premarital counseling. See, when I do premarital counseling with a couple, I bring up all the stuff they're going to fight about later and see if they survive to come back for the next session. If they don't, then I know they're not ready. Okay? This is reality. There's certain things married couples fight over. Well, let's get it out before the wedding rather than having the fight after the wedding. The right marriage will set you up to build a peace-filled home, and the wrong marriage will set you up for a life of turbulence. Now, next we're going to look at the one verse that is directed towards the women, towards the wife. And I know we just looked at 5 verses about nagging wives, but really they seem directed toward the husband. They are the warning not to marry the woman who's lacking in good character or wisdom. Because if you wind up with a nagging wife, this is what it's like. You're stuck with her. And so these verses describe what you're in for if that's what you wind up doing. But for the woman, we read this. Proverbs 14:1 says, "Every wise woman builds her house, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands." Ladies, if you want a secure, happy, peace-filled home, then understand your attitudes, your actions, and your words are either going to build that house up or tear it down. Do you work to make your home a shelter from the troubles of the world? Or do you make it a source of pain and regret for your husband? Now, I know we're in a world where both men and women work outside the home. The world has changed from what it was even 100 years ago or, in past times in history. This can really work both ways. But even with that, I find it's fairly rare to have a man who stays home to take care of the house while the woman goes out to work. Okay, there's a lot of couples where both of them go out and work and they share household chores. I mean, that happens. There's a lot of families where the woman stays home and works, but for the man to stay home while the woman goes out and works, that's just kind of rare. Not that it doesn't ever happen, but it's rare. So the vast majority of the time, I find men do tend to work outside the home. They go work and earn a living. And nowadays, women also work outside the home. When your husband comes home from work, work by definition is an activity involving mental or physical effort and stress. That's what work is. When your husband comes home from work and he's usually tired, he's trying to unwind from the work he's been doing all day. And I know women are working all day too. I'm not saying they're not, it's not that they haven't been vacationing on the Riviera all day while he's at work. That's not what I'm saying. But when he comes home, women often want to fill their husbands in on how things in the household are going. Women are more communicative. But if you greet your husband at the door each night with a list of what went wrong and what he needs to do about it, he's going to take that as nagging. I'm telling you, ladies, I'm trying to fill you in from a man's perspective. Okay, you're communicating what's happening. He's going to take it as nagging. You need to give him a little time to unwind from the stress of work before he's ready to go into the stress of home. Because to the man, they're two separate things. Usually. Now, the flip side is this, gentlemen, just because you've been out slaving at work doesn't mean your wife spent her day, doing nothing. Chances are things have gone wrong around the house. Things have gone wrong with the kids. You got kids, there's always going to be something. Okay. They've been acting up all day. Things have gone wrong with the family. And there's things at home that need your attention. So when you walk in that door, your wife has this list. That's reality. Okay, you can't put that off forever. The wise couple works out how and when to discuss the merger of their 2 days into a complete whole in the marriage. Okay, if you're going to have a happy marriage, you got to learn to work as a team, teamwork, and that is a process of learning. Okay, I mean it is a process while you're married. But if you don't figure out how to do that, the husband and the wife merging their lives, you'll wind up living 2 separate lives and eventually you grow apart. That's why you see people after 30 years of marriage suddenly get a divorce because they have been growing apart for 30 years and now they don't know each other anymore. That's what they'll tell you. I don't even know who she is anymore. I don't even know who he is anymore. That's because you have lived 2 separate lives. You've just been roommates, not a married couple. See, being one flesh and living in one house necessitates the merging of your experiences together at some point. But the moment he walks in the door may not be the right point. You got to work out between you when is the right point. When is the right time to talk about? When he lays down to go to sleep at night, that at 10 o'clock, that's not the time. Ladies, it's going through your mind. It's not going through his. Okay. On the other side, guys, got to make sure you make time. Got to make time for your wife to be able to share her concerns, her feelings, her needs. So ladies, have you ever felt that ladies usually are better at communicating their needs than the husband is. But if you do that in a way that makes your husband feel attacked every time he comes in, I'm going to tell you, ladies, it'll keep your house from having peace. Okay, if he feels attacked. You want to make it so your husband wants to come home from work so that it's a safe haven from the world. And if you will do that, then you will build a secure, happy, and peace-filled home. But if you make it so your husband dreads coming home, if he feels attacked and nagged every time he walks in the door, you're tearing your own house down. It won't accomplish what you want. Now, I know we all want to participate, in the household and gatherings. We get things done. We work together to get things done. If you make your husband dread coming home in the end, it'll be the opposite. Now, we have relatives. All of you have relatives, right? I mean, blood relatives, relatives by marriage. Those relatives are only human, or at least I think most of them are human. Yeah, few lizard people thrown in there, but no one's husband or wife is perfect. Okay, we get in the Bible, these are standards for husbands and wives, and this is what the wife is supposed to do. This is what the husband is supposed to do. But I'm going to tell you, nobody's husband or wife is perfect. Nobody's kids are perfect. Every kid acts up at some point. Nobody's relatives are perfect. No matter who you are, there may be moments when your in-laws are acting like outlaws. Okay? So what do you do when your spouse or your kids or your family does something wrong? Here's what we read in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12. Hatred stirs up conflicts, but love covers all offenses. Love covers all offenses. If you let it get under your skin, if you let the wrongs done by your family fester and turn into hatred, if you let that big knockdown, drag out fight erupt, then it will only keep stirring up endless conflicts. You can get to where you hate your relatives. It happens. There's a lot of divorced people who hate one another. They used to love one another. They're married, and then they get divorced, and they hate one another. Why? Because you can transfer from one to the other. Because they have allowed the conflicts, the pains, the difficulties to fester. And it keeps cycling into bigger and bigger anger and resentment and rage, and then eventually it becomes self-sustaining. You will get to where you even hate and do things that are not reasonable and be annoyed by things that are not reasonable because it makes you angry, and that anger is just self-fulfilling. Hatred stirs up conflicts. It creates more conflicts. However, love covers all offenses. If you want to have a peace-filled home, you must learn to love those in your home. Learn to love them. Learn to show the love of Christ to them, because that love will cover their offenses. It means you forgive and forget. You allow things to heal. See, a long, happy marriage doesn't happen because two people got married, two perfect people got married. There are no perfect people. A long, happy marriage happens when two people love each other enough to overlook each other's faults. They've loved one another enough to forgive and forget. Ruth Bell Graham, wife of Billy Graham, wrote this. She said, "A happy marriage is the union of two good forgivers." Two good forgivers. She's also quoted as saying, this wasn't in her writing, but she's quoted as saying that a good marriage requires two good forgetters. Secret of a happy marriage is Alzheimer's, but two good forgetters. I find this interesting. Billy Graham's wife says the reason they have a good marriage is forgiveness. The reason they have a good marriage is forgetful. Is Billy Graham so rough to be married to? She's got to forgive. She's got to forget. So it doesn't matter who you are. We're people. We're human. We make mistakes. And if you're going to be married, forgiving and forgetting is what's required. If you're always bringing up the past hurts, the past wrongs, digging up, not letting things heal, things that have been done, then it will stir up anger and resentment, and you will. But on the other hand, if you will respond with love and forgiveness, then it can cover the wrong and healing can occur. You have to break the cycle. However, it is hard to give what you don't have. If you want to be able to show the love and forgiveness of Christ to your family, then you must first receive it from Christ. The reason many people can't forgive is they haven't received forgiveness. They haven't accepted the forgiveness Jesus offers. The reason many people can't love the unlovable is because they haven't accepted the love of Christ towards their unlovableness. The way to be able to love like Jesus and for that love to heal the wounds in your family is for you to begin by receiving the love of Christ so it can heal you. It can heal your heart. It can heal your wounds. You come to Jesus and you receive his forgiveness for your sins so that you can then love your family and forgive their sins. See, I can forgive the sins of my relatives because of what Jesus did for me. It's grace poured through us. So the first step for every person who wants to build a peace-filled home is to come to Jesus, the Prince of Peace, and receive the peace that only He can provide. That's step number one. If you haven't done that already, then I invite you to do so this morning. Make this Thanksgiving a Thanksgiving you have the ability to be thankful because the peace of Christ has come to live in your home. Thank you for watching this video. If you live in the greater Phoenix area, we would love to have you come and worship with us in person any Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. The Meadows Baptist Church is located at 3701 West Beardsley Road. That's the side road of the 101 just west of 35th Avenue. We would love to have you pop by as we celebrate Jesus together.